everybody, and thank you for doing your daily sign-in into the world of video games. Today we're gonna be talking about EA subscription service, which is called EA Play. We're gonna be chatting about how Apex Legends is doing, given that they gave us a financial update on the EA front, and also them doing the ban hammer on a lot of cheaters, which I feel like is very, very positive. On the console front, we're going to be discussing the fact that a lot of Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X got their reviews. Lots of media outlets putting their review scores out there, so we're going to be discussing a little bit about that, and also following up a little bit more on the PS5 storage situation that we got going on. Yesterday we discussed how not all of the storage is usable and only around 650 gigabytes could potentially be useful. Now we're going to be talking about that you may not be able to expand the SSD storage at launch, at least at launch. Don't worry too much about it. All this and more on your daily sign-in. But as always, before we get started, if you like what you see, make sure to leave us a like. And if you don't want to miss any of your daily sign-ins, as where we discuss the happenings in the video game world, make sure to hit the subscription button and the notification bell so you don't miss a single one of them. Or if you have a busy life and you want to go around and do other stuff while you listen to this, you can also find us on any podcast service and leave us a review there to give us some feedback on how we're doing. All right, let's get started with the first piece of news. We're going to be talking about the fact that EA Play is doing quite well for EA, for sure. So this comes from Andy Chalk at PC Gamer. Essentially, they were talking about a little bit of the financial update that we got today from CEO Andrew Wilson, where Andrew Wilson quotes, "Our EA Play service is the most successful multi-platform subscription in the industry. With the addition of our subscription on PS4 and Steam, we have reached more than 6.5 million paid subscribers," Wilson said. Also, EA Play is now set to go live on Microsoft's Game Pass in a few days, and we believe that we have the opportunity to double our subscriber base over the next 12 months. That is interesting. The fact that we're getting a lot of push in the recent while about subscription services on for video games specifically. Obviously, we know a lot of subscription things are happening in the media world with TV and movies. They have been happening for quite a while, and now we are getting all these subscription services out there that are available for you to watch your own favorite shows. And it seems to be the way that the movies and the TVs and movies are heading. Now with video games, it was a bit more complicated, given that streaming requires a lot more technological advancement in terms of how much data you can transfer, specifically because it is more real time. You need to hear the user's input as opposed to just stream a movie. So that was a bit different. But now that we're getting things like EA Play and Xbox Game Pass, where you can actually if you have the subscription, you can actually get access to a catalog of games that you can download as long as you have the subscription and be able to play them natively on your device. I think that's the way to go. Like, honestly, that's really cool, especially since you have those consoles on your fingertips. Essentially allows you to be able to play a lot of games for very affordable, especially since games are becoming more and more expensive now. And for at least in Canada, where I'm from, games are starting to cost. Well, they are $90. Well, $80 plus tax, which puts them up to $90. And if they do the increase in price of $10, then we'll definitely be looking at $100+ games if you want to buy them new here in Canada. So obviously, if you have a subscription service where you just pay around $15 to $20 a month and you get all this amazing catalog of games, it allows, at least on the player's front, I believe that actually adds a lot more value than you buying games every single day, especially not everybody has the means to do so. So I think this is great, especially when you combine them together, like Xbox Game Pass and EA Play being accessible to players for the same price. It's not that you need to have two different subscription services. It's amazing. That's one of the main complications that you have with all the media services, streaming services out there. Now it seems like there is a streaming service for every show that you want to watch. That's the hope that I hope that doesn't get as much for the the video game services. But obviously, it's very early on. Seems like only the two major hitters right now is Xbox Game Pass and EA Play, which are coming in together. But it seems to be, at least from the players' front, it seems to be good. I also believe that if games are offering in this subscription service, it allows for more visibility on titles that you would otherwise not even get. Just for the mere fact that it's available to you. Let's say that you finish up your title that you're very looking forward to. Let's say that as Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and then you see other titles out there that you may not necessarily care about, but when you look at them when you're browsing, like if you're browsing Netflix the same way, and you see, oh, this title may look cool, let me give it a shot. And then you can actually start experiencing more titles that you would have otherwise left out just because of the mere fact that you wouldn't spend the $80 on it. So I think this is great for players, great for that sort of visibility. But for on the developers front, I do not know the economics of it, so it's not like I can speak on it. Obviously, there has to be a deal that works for everybody, especially for those high-end developers, not necessarily the ones that hold the subscription services like EA and Xbox, because obviously if their titles are on it and people subscribe to their service, that's good for them. But mostly for developers that are outside of that ecosystem, I don't know how the economics work for them there. But overall, pretty well, pretty well. Another statement here from Wilson. He says this is actually an entitlement to the EA Play subscription as a result of the relationships that we have with those players who make those subscriptions. That would be the same as if we sold it outside of the platform. So you will continue to see us think about our subscription broadly across platform and make it available to any player wherever they want, in any way they need, and as little friction as possible. Obviously, then doing a deal with Microsoft doesn't mean that they're giving this EA Play subscription service with Xbox Game Pass for free. Obviously, they worked out the economics with Microsoft. They didn't specify much on it, obviously, because of those are probably under NDA and they're probably internal. But the one statement that they added here was that we don't do anything for free. We and Microsoft have figured out the right way to make the economics work for both of us. So essentially, again, EA Play. This is a good win. This is when companies come together and work together to make these things happen. At least it's a win for players from my point of view, at least. Moving on to a little bit of more EA news, given this financial update. Apex Legends seems to be growing quite steadily. This is coming from also Andy Chalk at PC Gamer. It says that Apex Legends went from zero to about $1 billion in just 2 years. EA says. Coming over here, it says we started the year expecting Apex Legends to deliver 300 million to 400 million in net bookings. It is now on track to deliver more than 500 million. EA Chief Financial Officer Blake Jorgensen, hopefully I'm saying that name right, said during an investors conference call. That is, Apex will have gone from zero to about $1 billion in lifetime net bookings in just 2 years. With this velocity and the addition of mobile, we believe Apex has the potential to grow to $1 billion in net bookings bookings every year. That is quite crazy, to be honest with you. Apex obviously was very successful when it came out. It came out of nowhere. I remember when it came out back in February of 2018, or 2019 was it? I believe 2018. One of the two. Essentially, when it came out of nowhere. Obviously, people feeding up on the Battle Royale fascination, given that the popularity of Fortnite. But this one had their own spin. This comes after the Black Ops 4, kind of, I wouldn't call it a failure, but honestly not that great Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Battle Royale. And this one implementing the first-person aspect with the pinging system, with unique characters. This is my favorite Battle Royale for sure. I keep playing it every once in a while. Obviously, I'm not a hardcore continuing player on this. I don't go into the rankings or anything, but I always enjoy my time with it, especially when I play with friends. Especially when they release a new season and I see the new hero, which is just came out on Tuesday. So I'm glad that this is doing well. It shows that the game as a service is a interesting monetary service for developers of this caliber, as given that they can keep on adding to the existing game skins and all that sort of stuff. This is a free-to-play game, so the fact that they are doing so well with the skins, even after the various news items regarding how much the skins actually cost and how costly they are, some of them are even gated for time exclusivity, and some of them were gated at the beginning, at least, where you had to actually complete and get a bunch of skins before you could actually get a particular item on it. So even on top of all of that, and the fact that he's doing so well financially, it's interesting to see how little it had an effect on those bad news for sure. I'm glad it's doing well. I really enjoyed the game, and for me it's a testament of like, if the game is good and people enjoy it, they will spend the time on it and then spend the money on it. Well, at least this is even though it has the loot boxy things for skins, it also allows you to buy some of the skins outright, just like Fortnite does. One thing to note more about Apex Legends is with the release of the Season 7, it actually banned over 400 players. This comes from Riley McLeod at Kotaku. Apex Legends bans over 400 high-level players for a rank exploit. Essentially, this rank exploit allowed them to allowed diamond players, which is essentially very hard to do. Only 2% of ranked players actually make it all the way to diamond. Which is what the second highest tier on the rank mode. So given the exploit was essentially allowing them to play, even if you were a diamond, it kind of exploited the system, so you will play against people that are in bronze, which is the first rank in it, and it kind of was really unfair. Given imagine you being a new player into Apex Legends and playing against some of the top level players right from the get-go. Not only does it, I just think that's just a kind of a predatory mechanic, not mechanic, but predatory thing to do, just because you wanna showcase and things like, oh, I'm diamond. I wanna show to the world that I'm a diamond player. I'm like, what? At what cost? To what extent? Like, are you actually a diamond player if you're exploiting this sort of cheats? This can really hurt a game, so I'm glad that they're putting a force and banning a lot of players. I know for Call of Duty it has been a big problem with cheaters and not having a centralized service to actually ban them. I remember they even said that they were doing like manual reviews. Imagine for a game that big doing manual reviews is kind of crazy. So seeing this and seeing them drop the hammer on even their high level players is awesome to see. I just don't like when people cheat. It's just, what is the point at that? Like, you're not even gonna compete against actual people that made their way up the ranks without cheating, because they're gonna be so much better than you. But that is my own take on it. Moving on from EA and all this EA news. Let's talk about the Xbox Series S and X, shall we? We got a little bit of a review rundown from GameSpot right here. This is by Jeremy Wilslow. So this is the Xbox Series X review roundup. We can see that GameSpot has unscored it just yet, but he gave it the Series X is an extremely refined Xbox and a great piece of tech that sets a strong foundation for Microsoft for better serve its console users. That's a good quote right there. CNET also unscored it. Game Informer gave it a B+. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10. And a lot of other ones are still unscored, but it's mostly a statement. And most of the statements, based on what I read, is the console is great. It really shows the power of the next generation consoles. Faster load times, easy if you're switching between games. I forget what the proprietary term that they use for that. Better looking games, better performing games on this console, which is what you want for the next generation for sure. The main thing that is lacking though is that really big title that pushes it. Obviously, it seemed like that was going to be Halo Infinite. But given all the things that happened through the development of that game, as we discussed in previous daily signings, obviously this is not the case anymore. They don't have the Halo, so the only thing that you got is all the games are non-exclusive. There's still new games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which plays according to the reviews really well on the Xbox Series X. But you still don't have that one exclusive title that you want on that console. So in that sense, it's like, to me, this is if you're gonna get it at launch, it's also because you want to play a lot of the games that they have on Game Pass, and also the backwards compatibility works really great for it, giving you a boost on existing titles that you wouldn't get on the Xbox One or the previous generation Xbox. So That is great, and it kind of reminds me of when people skipped. If you are one of the people like skipped on the Wii U, for example, and then got a Switch, and you got to play all the awesome titles that the Wii U got, is almost the same thing. If you miss a lot of the titles on the previous generation and you were not in the Xbox ecosystem, being able to snap one of these, get Game Pass, and play a lot of games in it, I think it's a great value and all definitely worth checking out at launch. But if you are looking for the next generation title, like the one that is exclusive and actually showcases the full power of the Xbox, it probably is not going to be worth it right now. That doesn't mean it's not going to be worth it in the near future when you actually see those titles come to it. Obviously, the big draw here is Game Pass. Having such a library, and if you don't have a high-end PC to play some of those titles, this is definitely worth getting. I would think, based on everything that we have seen so far. But it seems like that's the kind of the summary that a lot of people are coming into with this console. Obviously, they have different aspects, and I recommend that you read all the reviews if you're interested in them. And moving on from the Xbox console, let's talk about PlayStation just a little bit. Yesterday, we discussed the fact that not all the SSD is going to be usable. According to one of the leaks, it's only going to be around 650 gigabytes of free space for you to try. And it turns out that you cannot expand the SSD drive by putting in another one at launch. The game will require an update. This is coming from Brett Makedonsky over at Destructoid. PlayStation 5 won't have an expandable SSD support until a feature update. Essentially, it is very easy to add more SSD storage to the PlayStation 5. It's not quite as simple as the Xbox Series X, letting you pop an expansion card into a slot at the back, but it's not intimidating. They also, like the PS5, they gave you actually a little bit of a tear down on how to actually open up the console and put in the SSD, but it has to be an M2 slot for installing a PCIe 4.0 NVMe SSD. Obviously, a lot of the acronyms there, but it's essentially a high-end SSD that you can put into to kind of. They recommend that a particular one just to match, or not to match, but at least come close to the SSD that comes natively with the PS5, given that that's one of the main features of this console. So it's not going to be available at launch though. So without a feature patch, you are not going to be able to actually install the hard drive or the extra SSD. Personally, I don't see this as much of an issue. 650 gigabytes is still enough space to hold the titles that you will potentially play at launch. It all depends on how fast they deliver the feature update to allow you to expand it. Because at the beginning, there's obviously really great titles that you can put in there, but I don't think it's gonna get too full unless you go and install all the PS4 titles that you also got, or with the PS4 Plus collection. But unless you really load your PS5 at launch, I think this is going to be okay. It all depends on how fast they actually deliver this update, which hopefully is fairly soon. And last but not least, with some PS5 news, Sony warns fans across the world not to camp or queue outside of shops for the PS5. This comes from Wesley Yimpol, All Up Eurogamer, saying that Sony has announced an all-day of launch PlayStation 5 sales will be online only globally. It comes after Sony announced it will not sell their PS5 in stores in Japan. So essentially, due to the pandemic and everything that we're living through right now, the PS5s are mostly going to be online or a pickup, pre-orders, nothing that you need to stand in line for. One of the statements that they quoted here is, in the interest of keeping our gamers, retailers, and staff safe amidst COVID-19, today we are confirming that all day of launch sales will be conducted through the online stores of our retail partners, Sony said in a blog post. Honestly, I think that's a lot better. Although I miss the midnight launches where everybody shares the excitement of getting their console, I went to the midnight launch of the PS4. It's not necessarily the funnest part to stay outside, especially here in Canada in the cold. And also, if you don't have not having, a lot of people were standing in line trying to get the PS4 even if they didn't have a pre-order, and that to me is a little bit more disorganized. I'm glad that you can only get one if you have a pre-order. Things were a little bit of a mess with the pre-order thing, so hopefully that gets rectified next time, in the next 7 years when we get the next console. Hopefully, if you pre-order a PS5, remember you can just call in and get a curbside pickup or just a store pickup if you don't want to rely on the postal services, given that sometimes some things can get chaotic, especially during this close to the holiday season. If you want to get the PS5 on launch day, make sure that you go and pick it up, or make sure that the shipment is actually on time for it. But yeah, I think that's everything that we got for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and doing your daily signing into the world of video games. Remember, you can catch us live every single weekday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or if you don't have the time, because obviously we have very busy schedules, you can watch us on YouTube by searching Daily Signing, or you can hit us on any podcast service around the globe by just searching Daily Signing. Remember, if we want to hear from you, want to hear what your thoughts are on all these subscription service you think is the way to go in the future. Do you think games is going to be more closely related to how movies and TV shows were going? Remember, you can give us a message by writing on the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, by joining the Discord and having a more one-to-one conversation there. Everything is in the description below, or by emailing us at itsallfunandgamestv@gmail.com. Other than that, I think that's everything that we got for you. With that, I leave you with your daily sign out.